It is EThekwini Matters once again. I am Sawakhe Maisela, your host. Today we're talking energy. Like any other municipality or metro or town, we are not spared by the rolling power outages in our country. That is why the city is now beginning to have a conversation about other alternative sources of energy. That's why we thought it is of cardinal importance that we invite Uspusiso Ntshalintshali, who is our manager responsible for energy, to talk to us. And remember, this podcast is happening just after we hosted a successful summit, which was the first of its kind that was discussing mainly the issues of energy. Baba, a warm welcome to you. And it's a pleasure to have you in EThekwini Matters.
Well, thanks very much, Sawakhe. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be here, and great greetings to our viewers.
A successful summit that we have recently had.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, remarkable summit. Is the first of its kind in KZN, and the turnout was very, very superb, and we are very much happy about the resolutions.
And I can see that it was very training for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a two-day event. The first day is focusing on power crisis, you know, that we are facing as a country, and the second day is focusing on our launch on regional hydrogen strategy.
And what is it that you were discussing there? I know that we are moving towards ensuring that we have got other sources of energy. Just tell us briefly, what is it that you deliberated on in the summit?
Yeah, first of all, I think it is very important to outline that as a EThekwini Metropolitan, just like in other metro, we've got a very clear strategic direction that we have undertaken, articulated in our city energy transition policy to say in the year 2025 we need to reduce our reliance on Eskom. 2030 we need to reduce our reliance on Eskom by 40%. But ultimately in the year 2035 we should be self-sufficient and achieve our energy independence. So what is that we're discussing in the summit largely is about how do we then keep the ball rolling in terms of implementation, and what are the short-term interventions that we can derive as part of our power crisis that we are facing as a country. But most importantly is about the Disaster Management Act that has been declared by our state president, and how is that is going to help EThekwini municipality in terms of mitigating the impact of load shedding to the local economy. I think that's what is important on day one. And then on day two, we discuss the overarching role of EThekwini municipality in terms of the launch of our regional hydrogen strategy, so which is a $23 billion strategy that has been tabled into our to the council and has been approved in the council. So we were discussing the rollout plan in terms of the implementation, because there are quite a number of projects that has been identified under that strategy. So now we talk implementation.
There has been a lot of criticism that we happen to have these forums, the summits where we discuss all these issues, but only to find that when it comes to implementation, we've got shortcomings. Are you certain that whatever came out of this summit is going to assist us to ensure that we implement whatever that was resolved?
Well, absolutely. We are already far advanced in terms of the implementation. You'll remember that in 2021, we released a request for information calling for 400 megawatts of new generation capacity from independent power producers, and we have already embarked, and we are at a very, very far advanced stage in terms of the implementation with regards to that 400 megawatts. We have already received the concurrences.
So already the process is underway?
Absolutely, absolutely. The KZN government has already concurred with us, and in principle the National Treasury has already concurred with us. So the process is already underway, and perhaps in the new financial year we'll be releasing an RFP into the market.
Oh, that's good. But now, what is it that SIPO in Endwet, what role is expected from an ordinary citizen to play in this regard?
Well, of course, because it's a long-term, strategy of the municipality. Obviously, there are short-term projects that we believe that they're going to come online in 2025, and there are those projects that are going to come online in 2030 and ultimately 2035. But in terms of community integration in our procurement process, we've got a very clear economic development compliance that has been built inside our RFP process in order to ensure that the social aspect of our people are taken into consideration. For example, we'll be looking at developing community trust. We'll be looking at developing a clear framework in terms of how do we put forward the radical economic transformation of the city. Remember, we've got a policy on radical economic transformation, and that will be in the center. But most importantly, it's about the role of women. Is another theme that came out in our summit to say, how do we include women in the procurement of new generation capacity? So the city, as soon as we complete the package of our RFP, all of those considerations would be actually included in our RFP. So it will have a very clear threshold that determine the role of small emerging companies, the women participation, as well as the community participation as well. Yeah.
Is this another way of our city's contribution to the crusade against carbon emissions?
In the way, is part of it, but in the center of our energy transformation is energy security. You cannot fight climate change without energy security. You cannot grow your economy without energy security. You cannot create jobs without energy security. So energy security is in the center, and that is why if you look at the broader transformational energy mix of EThekwini municipality, we still say, let's utilize our competitive advantage in order to build the required energy infrastructure, and then after that we'll be able to fight all other issues, such as economic growth that we see it is not growing at all. We're going to fight the unemployment as well. So, but you cannot fight all of those without energy security. So in the center is energy security, but in the long run you could have some sort of climate change as we roll out some renewable energy projects as well.
What are we talking about here in simple terms? This is French, I have to be honest, to a layman. Are we talking about solar? Are we talking about wind farms?
We are talking about new power plants that will be built in around the EThekwini metropolitan. It may not be even within the boundary, it could be even outside our boundary. These power plants will then be producing electricity. Remember that all of our electricity as EThekwini comes from Eskom. So Eskom is facing challenges at this point in time. And what we're saying, as per our city's energy transition policy, let's reduce our reliance on Eskom, and therefore let's promote the local generation. So there will be quite a number of independent power producers on the side of the city, selling electricity into the city as the way of trying to truly transform the energy sector. We don't want to place all of our eggs in one basket. So we want to diversify our energy supply. We want to ensure that in the center of our economic development there is energy security.
But these are renewable sources.
These are renewable. There are some part of fossil fuels as well. So remember that with the renewable you cannot achieve energy security. So you need to have a mix and integrated approach of power sources. Correct.
You have talked about one thing that I think you need to clarify. The issue of the hydrogen strategy. What's there?
Well, the hydrogen strategy, you'll remember that our state president, during the Green Hydrogen Summit in Cape Town, we also attended there. He spoke about the 3.4 trillion rand hydrogen market that is already identified in South Africa. And the city at the time had already developed the strategy because we could see that our strategic direction is around not only fixing the electricity crisis, but also looking at the fuel crisis. I'm sure that you'll know that the price of petrol has increased significantly. The price of diesel,
it's not stopping.
And it's not stopping. And what we say, let's introduce some strategic reforms around the liquid fuel industry as a whole. The scale of deindustrialization in the south of Durban. So we have 2 crude oil refineries that are not operational at this point in time. You've got Engine, you've got Supref. They are not currently operational. And as a result of that is an economic decline to EThekwini municipality. People are losing jobs. So this hydrogen economy is a turnaround plan specifically for the south of Durban. But on top of it, we have said, let's identify these hydrogen hubs. So in these hydrogen hubs, we have identified the Richards Bay port, which is a little bit outside Durban, 160 kilometers, port of Richards Bay. And we have also identified the Cato Ridge Dry Port, which is just about 50 kilometers from the city, and also the port of Durban here. So those ports are strategically positioned, you know, to leverage the regional hydrogen economy. So the strategy on its own, it actually identified the demand in the EThekwini for hydrogen and the investment that will be required in order to meet the demand. So in the strategy, we've tabled to the council a 23 billion US dollar investment, which is roughly about 420 billion rand. So we will be building supply chain infrastructure. We will be turning around the south of Durban. And also, we'll be also looking at how best can we introduce another alternative energy fuel. So when you go to your garage and fill up your car, you will probably get diesel and petrol. Now you will get hydrogen fuel.
Okay. I see a lot of, I see a growing trend
Yeah.
of people buying solar panels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we encouraging that as a city?
Well, of course, we are encouraging it, provided that our people are doing it safely.
That's
So
the most
that has
important
been,
thing,
yeah, that's the most important thing, because our grid is severely constrained due to illegal connections, and we don't want to create another problem on top of another problem.
And we're losing a lot of revenue.
And as a result of that, we may lose revenue. And what we have said is that the city must take charge of energy transformation. And even for IPPs, we say IPPs must sell electricity to the city, so that it can be regulated with NERSA and other stakeholders. And then ultimately we redistribute that electricity to our consumers. But it becomes a problem when IPPs, they bypass municipality and want to sell directly to our customers. And that is a big revenue
Because it becomes
decline.
very difficult to regulate.
Absolutely, it becomes difficult to regulate, and it also has got some negative impact in terms of revenue generation.
It's a very interesting story to tell.
Yes,
it is going to require that we move with speed. Considering the challenges that we are currently experiencing now. Is there anything that you'd like to, share with the public with regard to this noble initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what is very important, first of all, is that we are facing a national crisis, which is power crisis. And it requires a collective effort, different stakeholders, municipalities, our residents, the industry at large, to come forward with sustainable energy solutions. We do know that at this point in time, the energy crisis is something that cannot be resolved as soon as possible, but we can try and reduce the impact of load shedding to our local economy. So there will be quite a number of low-hanging fruit projects that will be rolling out as a city. We'll be looking at the municipal strategic operations. We're looking at our wastewater treatment plants in terms of how do we roll out solar PVs. We'll be looking at our pump stations in terms of how do we roll out solar PVs, because the lack of electricity supply also affects the distribution of water to our people. So those are the short-term interventions that we'll be looking at. We're also looking at the municipal buildings, putting solar PVs there in order to ensure that some of the strategic operations of the municipality continues to provide the service to our people.
Thank you so much for making some time to talk to us, hoping that you're going to do the same in future in the event that there is a need for us to be able to ventilate quite a number of issues pertaining to energy.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
That was Ntshalintshali, our manager responsible for energy, shedding a light on quite a number of initiatives that have taken off the ground in our city with regard to responding to the current power outages. He is also appealing to you, an ordinary citizen, to play your part, because this has to be a joint effort for us to be able to respond to the current crisis that we are facing. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to hit the subscribe button so that you do not miss the next episode.